Hi everyone, it's Deb Carr here, and today I am chatting with Katie M. Little. Katie is a stand-up comedian, writer and performer in the duo Mass Experience alongside her husband Timothy Poulton. So welcome Katie, how are you today?
Hello, how are you going? I'm good, thank you.
Good. Yeah. Thanks for joining me for this little chat. So for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Oh, where do I even begin? I don't know. I mean, the most obvious thing that people always go to, first of all, is that I'm Jeannie Little's daughter. So, I do have my own identity, but people do say, oh, you're so much like your mother. And I say, don't worry, I'm just a cheap imitation, which is fine. So, I've got a background in, a bunch of different things, but I'm definitely a creative. I had a book out a couple of years ago, which, I love writing, and now I'm doing music. So that's really exciting as well.
And you do comedy as well.
And stand-up comedy as well. I know. I'm a sucker for punishment. Stand-up comedy is like my adrenaline sport, actually. I think anytime life's getting a bit dull, I'm like, right, I'll get back into that again. It's really fun.
That's a hard gig, stand-up comedy, so well done.
Thank you. It is. And also, too, I was writing my book, and I thought I'll just sign myself in to do a comedy writing course with Tim Ferguson, who's fantastic, from the Doug Anthony All-Stars. And the first thing out of his mouth when I sat down was, if you want to get anywhere, as a comic writer, you need to be doing stand-up. And I remember sitting in the audience just going, oh, okay, right, like here we go, sort of thing. So, but I must say it's really quite fun and addictive, and it's great. It keeps you on your game.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Now, you've formed a duo with your husband, Timothy Poulton, Mass Experience. So tell us a little bit about what inspired you to get into the music and what inspired you to call yourselves Mass Experience.
Well, when I met my husband 25 years ago, it was like an explosion of sort of technology at the time. So my husband had just bought the first little Apple Mac computer, and we both loved music. But I think, during high school and stuff, I loved visual arts. I loved music. I loved singing. I just didn't know what to do with any of these things. And it wasn't until the technology kind of caught up and the little Apple Mac computer came out, and suddenly electronic music, turntables came out, and we were like, oh, you can beat mix and you do this, So we were sort of putting on rave parties and stuff back in Sydney. And we did actually release a single back then, which got put out on Fresh Records in England, which turned out to be quite big. And we always thought we'll come back to this. But meanwhile, we were doing all the artwork for our graphic design flyers, and that's what turned into the business because it was paying the bills. So we were always like, we'll get back to the music, and then, you go off in different paths and stuff. And then suddenly COVID hit, and my husband, who, was then a landscape photographer, and I was still doing the writing gig. We were sort of forced in the house together, and I was working on a blog called Sitting with Demons, and my husband was in the other room showing our eldest son how to use, a piece of music technology. And suddenly I went, oh, I think this is lyrics. And so we just made this song, which actually kind of blew us away. And we went, that's fantastic. We just have to do that. So we kept thinking about names, and it was really about, wanting to include as many different artists as we can in the process, including our children as well. We're like, let's call ourselves Mass Experience. So that's sort of how it started. And we just couldn't stop writing music. It's been fantastic.
I must say, Sitting with Demons, I love it. I absolutely love the intro to your voice. Is sort of, I don't know, angelic in a way.
Oh, that's very sweet. Or demonic.
I know. Sitting with Demons with an angelic voice. So where did you get that name? Is Sitting with Demons?
Sitting with Demons, I was writing this blog, which just sort of poured out of me like it sometimes does. And it was sort of 3 pages of writing. I kept thinking, it's too long. I need to shorten it. And then, as the music was playing in the other room, I started thinking, actually, no, I can get all this concept if I just cut it down further and further into just short lyrics. And so it's really about being, you can't run away, and you're being forced to sit with your demons. So there's been a number of things. 2020 there was so many uncomfortable moments. There was, the bushfires with, in Sydney, we couldn't even go outside because you couldn't breathe. There was ash falling from the sky. Literally, you're thinking the world is about to end. I read a lot of environmental news, and I'm constantly on the edge of terror, and anxiety is just skyrocketing with people too. And then, of course, then COVID came too, and one thing after another, and that affected, my husband's career because he couldn't fly overseas anymore, which therefore affected our relationship because he used to come and go a lot, and suddenly we were all together all the time. And my family, there's no wallflowers. Everyone's high energy with stuff going on. So it was like, okay, how do we kind of sit with our demons and not run away and face them in a healthy kind of way? And for us, it was writing music together.
Oh, well, I do recommend everyone hop on and listen to that. And also Coronavirus Crisis, your debut single. I love that too. That's kind of got me up and dancing before we came up.
Hey, I mean, that was another thing. We were working on Sitting with Demons, and then Coronavirus Crisis. We quickly churned out a whole album. So there's another 2 singles to come out before the whole album Sitting with Demons arrives. Sitting with Demons happens in April. But Coronavirus Crisis too was something, by the time we got into the studio to do, produce it and mix it and stuff, the guy we were working on, Chris Hammersmith, who's lovely, sort of said, "Oh, this is really amazing, and I love the artwork you've chosen for Coronavirus Crisis," which, both my husband and I are graphic designers, and I did the artwork for that. And I was like, yeah, and I didn't think how that could be really confronting until I saw it through his eyes. And I'm like, yeah, it's like a musk pink pop kind of coloured artwork with a skull on it. And, when you're going through this really terror, and I was doing sort of TV interviews and stuff too at the time, to do with sort of, we're in such a weird point in time where social media seems to have divided everyone's opinions like extremely, and people were trying to pin me as an anti-vaxxer and stuff, and I was saying, no, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I'm just saying we should all be given the time to kind of be able to think through and get in touch with our sort of instincts and stuff before we're pressured or pushed in or bullied into any sort of decision making. So yeah, there was a whole bunch of stuff going on with Coronavirus Crisis, and it was more about too, as old ravers, just thinking, you know what the antidote is for everything when you're stressed is just to get out and dance it out, and have a good time. So
exactly.
Yeah,
I totally agree with you. Social media's gone crazy.
it's social media is an interesting experiment.
Yeah, well, I think people need to start being nice. People need to start being nice. There's no need for nastiness for anything on social media.
And I remember when the internet was coming along, and thinking, oh, this is going to be amazing. Everyone's going to be able to access any information around the world, and it's going to be fabulous. And then, Y2K, and everyone panicking and filling up, the bathtub with water, thinking the world might end and all this sort of stuff. And, the world didn't end when the clock ticked over to 2000, but the internet's made a huge impact on politics, which, defines the world, all sorts of stuff. So it's really, it's a social experiment.
It's a crazy one, but we've got it now. I mean, I actually closed my Twitter account and my Facebook personal page and started a new Facebook because it's just too much nastiness. I just had enough of it.
Yeah, and I think a lot through 2022, I've kind of fostered a supportive community on Facebook, and that was really important to me, and sort of stepping in and saying to people, and we've discussed really hot topics, like vaccines and stuff, and antidepressants, and really volatile subjects. And some people get on and start ranting, and I've got to step on and say, and Black Lives Matter as well. That was 2020 as well. And so I sort of started things saying, there's 2 kinds of people in Australia: those who care about, hashtag Black Lives Matter, and those who care about cheese knives matter, which everyone at the time went, oh, that's a bit confronting. And it was just like, yeah, but I need to find a way to take the sting out of it so we can all step back and keep talking about it and actually, working through what's going on with everything. It's a lot to process and digest. And then the minute someone takes it too far and starts being nasty and personal, I'd step on and say, hang on a second, you can't serve brie at room temperature or, straight out of the fridge. It has to be at room, temperature. Let's get back to talking about cheese knives matter. And when we've kind of adjusted to that, then we'll get back to the hot topic, which is the real topic we all want to talk about, which is Black Lives Matter. So,
yep. And everybody... Yeah, we're entitled to an opinion, aren't we? We're all entitled to an opinion. So if you don't agree with me and I don't agree with you,
exactly. And too, I think because I'm a writer. I wrote my book. I do stand-up comedy, which is doing confronting stuff and trying to get through to people in a different way. And now with the lyrics too, it's the same kind of thing. It's trying to help people communicate with each other, and we've lost our way a lot of the time.
Yeah, well, that's why we need music and stand-up comedians.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, Mum as well, like she was an amazing communicator too. She really was one of the first female comedians in Australia. Was always looked as, Ditzy, zany, Jeannie Little, but she was such a fabulous fabulous person, who just inspired people to be inspirational and their true selves, and lovely as well. There was never any nastiness, which, in that whole TV industry, to survive that without losing your mind is quite something as well. So Mum's a huge inspiration for me. So awesome. Yeah.
As I said, I met your mother. She's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's terrific.
Long time ago. So tell me a bit about the studio where you record, your music's recording studio.
I'll say that again, Dal.
Tell us a bit about the studio where you're recording.
Oh, well, we're all musicians at home. I've got 3 children and my husband, so we're all addicted to technology. And also I think in lockdown too, I suppose when we were writing, my husband and I were writing music together 20 years ago, it was really hard to do anything. Like anytime you had to, plug in a new instrument or record something, sample something, it took you all day to work out how the bits were plugged in together and all this stuff, and then you do it and it wouldn't work. And by the time you figured out how to use the technology, the idea was gone. So for us in lockdown, we had some new bits of technology. Actually, we bought my son an Ableton Push for Christmas, which was really for us. And so, so we had the manual out going, cool, let's figure out how to work this. This is really fun. And then, my husband and I were just blown away going, wow, the technology's come so far in 20 years. The things you can do is so exciting. So, we've got a home studio, which is great. And then I sort of, Tim's good at finding the sounds that go together. He's a terrific guitar player, and he can also sort of play bass and find samples to put together and stuff. I'd kind of come in, do some arranging of the track because I love that side of it. And then I'd take it upstairs to my room up the top with a little vocal sort of thing, like a microphone. And then I'd sing over the top of that and do like these vocal mock-ups. And then we actually went into like a proper studio in William Street, down from the Cross Forbes Street studio. And we recorded it properly there, which was terrifying for me because I've never sung in a real recording studio before. So, you think, oh yeah, stand-up comedy, that's terrifying. And then this was, but that's kind of over in 5 minutes. And you sing and you're like, oh, I got through that. Whereas recording studio was it was just fresh out of lockdown. So everyone's still kind of a bit nervous. And then in the recording studio with headphones on, anytime I could hear any nervousness in my voice, it was like a feedback loop of terror where I'd go, oh, this is really overwhelming. So I really had to push through all of that. And in the end, loved it. Absolutely loved the process of it.
Excellent. And do you ever plan to do anything live? Is that on the cards?
Well, funnily enough, I'd actually love to do something live because I love performing stand-up, and I thought, performing music would be fantastic. Tim and I both used to be DJs, and I used to do lighting and stuff at raves too, and the buzz from doing live gigs is so much fun, particularly with music. I mean, stand-up is a lot, you've got to judge your audience, and that sometimes if you get a great audience, it's fantastic. And I'm assuming that music, what I remember from DJing, I have such fantastic memories, packed dance floors, and you're thinking, I know what the next track is going to be, and I know when it's going to, hit off, and everyone's going, this is fantastic. So, yeah, I'm really excited about doing live gigs. And funnily enough, Studio 10 sort of said, oh, will you come on and perform live tomorrow? And my husband said, oh, I don't know if we can do that. And I said, just say yes, it'll be fine. So
why not?
My mum taught me that. She said, just say yes to everything. And then I think to myself, how did I get myself into this? But anyway.
You'll pull it off. Now, mention in the beginning was a stand-up comedian and a singer and a writer. You're also a tea leaf reader and a tarot reader. Yeah. I say I moonlight, as a tarot card reader. I've always loved numerology. And funnily enough, so my mum used to read tea leaves. Yeah. She was really well known for, like in journalist circles and with personal friends, would often drop in. She learnt that from her Scottish mum, who sort of passed down the art of tea leaf reading. So I theoretically know how to do tea leaf reading, but I kind of look at it and squint my eyes, and everyone says, what are you doing? I say, I can see this and your marriage is wonderful, blah, 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 but that's all I get. Whereas for me,
I was just always drawn to it as a little girl. Mum and I used to sort of bond over going to esoteric bookshops and buying spooky stuff and talking about UFOs. And Mum even says she was taken up in a UFO, which she never told me, but she told our friend Craig Bennett, who I think she didn't tell
Craig
me.
Bennett.
Yeah. Well, he's a great friend, and he sort of said, "Yeah, your mum was taken by a UFO." And I went, "What?" She never told me. And I think it's because I was absolutely terrified of UFOs as a kid. So I don't know. Maybe I was taken one and I've got a repressed thing. Who knows? But tarots for me is what I love, and so and funnily enough, too, my mum was scared of when I first had my first set of deck of tarot cards, and she hid them. And I remember thinking, hey, hang on a second, that's not fair. How come you're allowed to read tea leaves and I'm not allowed to read tarot cards? So and so now I do numerology, which weirdly too, I've since, had to go through all my mum's stuff like you do to kind of sort things out, and found all little pieces of paper where mum's been working out numerology for people too. So she was into numerology as well. I think if only our lives had, overlapped a little bit more, it would have been so interesting. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm right into all that stuff. I've got tarot cards and I believe UFOs, and I can't help but I'm so love watching the universe and the galaxies. We're just a little tiny speck.
Me too. And the thing with doing the tarot card readings, I do like a numerology profile, which is about someone's life, and then I sort of do the card reading, which is about usually a conversation around something current kind of thing. And I get hooked on it because it's like I can either do it over the phone or in person, and it's usually with someone I've never met, and I end up having these really intense, deep and meaningful conversations about life, death, marriage, relationships, all sorts of really intense stuff. And so I get hooked on this, and then I go back to sort of, what I call surface conversations with everyone else, of, people who I know. How are you? I'm fine. I'm good. How's the weather? And I think, I have to do another. When's my next reading coming up? Because I'm just craving this sort of, intensity of conversation about really big, important soul journey stuff. It's great.
Yeah, I love all that stuff too. You're a fascinating lady, I must say. So where can people hear the music?
So it's on all the big streaming platforms. Spotify's the main one. Apple Music, Amazon, whatever it's called. It's all over the place, really. We've got our website's massexperience.life, LIFE, and my personal page is littlefamily.live, LIVE, which is a bit confusing, but both of them have got links to the music, links to the tarot card readings and all that sort of, and my book Catch a Falling Star as well, which is really like a black human memoir about growing up with my mum and crazy kind of memories from that too. So which is a fun read, but deals with some big topics as well. So yeah, it's cool.
Fascinating. And your website's fantastic. Great graphics and layout. Well done.
Thank you. I should have a conversation with you every day.
Yeah, this is great. Like I feel like I've known you forever.
Seriously, sometimes you just go through life going, hey, I'll just give that a go. And you think, what am I doing this for? This is actually really intense. And then having a conversation with you, I go, oh, thanks. Someone noticed all this stuff I've been doing. This is great.
Well, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you.
For having the chat.